So, how much of your strategy is conversion rate optimization? Usually, when I ask that question, people go, huh? And we all have the best of intentions, but how much of your strategy are you dedicating to optimizing your conversion rates? Historically, when traffic was a commodity, something that we could get if we created the right keywords and the right pieces of content, CRO, while it was important, wasn't usually something that was at the top of the list. Now, traffic is harder to come by. And the reality is, whether it's AI overviews, LLMs, or normal Google searches that are driving traffic, you've got to make sure that you are getting the responses and the conversions that you would expect in the form of form fills, purchases, or checkouts, regardless of whether they've come through. CRO becomes really important because you have to make sure that you have fully defined and broken down the details of what your ideal customers are looking for, and then making sure that you have that next relevant step for them. It could be as simple as removing the menu on a landing page or adding some FAQs to the bottom of one of your pages, or making sure that you've got relative funnel matching in regards to where people are in their buyer's journey and the offers that you're providing on the page once the user gets there. All of this is under the umbrella of conversion rate optimization. And when we think of how much work you got to do in order to make that happen, I believe that as we look into strategies in 2026 and beyond, it needs to be a core part of what you do every day, every week, every month, because with how quickly technology shifts are happening and how the buyer intent is changing, we've got to make sure that we've got our finger on the pulse of the conversion rates to the end objective, which in most cases is revenue. And we've got to make sure we understand the details. Now, this doesn't just stop with your website, it also gets broken down across your entire go to market function. So when we think most people start at visitors, right? We should start at impressions. Then we get to visitors, we figure out what that conversion rate is. For instance, that conversion rate is changing drastically. It used to be if you were in the first three on a click, you had first three in a Google search that you had, I think it was a 1 to 2% chance that the human was going to convert on your link. Now with overviews, that number is quite lower. So your overall traffic goals are going to need to be different. Then you have your visit to lead conversion rate. We have to, in order to measure that, we can look at the overall average, but we also have to make sure that we segment out our content on our website into different functions. You're going to have a topical function, and then you're probably going to have a like where in the buyer's journey function. It's really, really important to understand the anatomy of your website in order to get adequate and understandable conversion rates. Then you're going to have your different channels, right? You're going to have your paid ads that might come through. You might have community based or like Reddit articles that drive traffic. You're going to want to be able to take a gander at those different areas, and you're going to want to make sure that you understand that visit to lead conversion rate. As you go further down the funnel, you have your lead to qualified lead conversion rate. That could be a marketing qualified lead if your funnel demands it, or it could be a sales qualified lead that you're measuring against. The important thing here is that you have really great definitions for what a sales qualified lead is and what a normal lead is that comes in the system. Typically, we try to skip the marketing qualified lead and look at a sales qualified lead as someone that's showing some level of intent. It might be behavioral, or it might be that they are showing interest by raising their hand in a form. Then you have a sales accepted lead. The sales accepted lead is going to be where sales is actually accepting that and making a call on it. This could also be someone that goes through the checkout if you're doing B2B. The sales accepted lead is a lead that you may want to turn off certain marketing for because sales is now in the chat. When we think of a sales accepted lead, that's going to be where sales is vetted that it matches your target accounts or your ideal client profiles, and you've got a general direction for them. Finally, you're going to have opportunities, or in HubSpot, it's called deals. These opportunities are ones where maybe that first meeting was held or that confirmation that there is potential to close that individual. Then that opportunity is going to be measured where the sales team is working that deal to turn it to close. Within that opportunity, you'll have conversion rates in each of those deal stages. And that we could talk about from more of a sales side on CRO. But ultimately, what we're looking for is being able to circle back at the end and figure out how many of our deals that came through became a customer at a high level, and what were the original sources of those. So, is your sales team working 3 times harder for a paid ad lead versus an organic one? It's entirely possible. You should know that because they're going to need different tools and different projections to project revenue. If we get the full funnel from awareness through to consideration and decision, and we know our audience conversion rate all the way through to our visitor lead, qualified lead, opportunity or deal, and our customer, then we get to do something very magical. You get to measure the value of each one of those individual steps. Now, where this comes in really handy is when you need to start looking at other areas or other channels in regards to how valuable the channel is. In some cases, you're not going to be paying for that channel. For instance, paid social or community activity. You're not literally going to be paying for that unless you're doing paid ads, but you're going to want to be able to understand how much the value of a lead is from those sources or value of a visitor is from those sources so that you can compare the effectiveness of your marketing really down to a revenue point of view. And if we look at that from a revenue point of view, you'll understand your cost per visit, your cost per lead, your cost per opportunity. You'll have a really good, wholesome understanding of the overall customer acquisition cost based on those conversion rates at a by channel standpoint. And that's where the magic comes in for you to be able to figure out where you can put your dollars. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And that's where you can really dial this in and understand that your marketing team spends 3 hours on Reddit each week, but Reddit is driving a considerable amount of value for you from a visit and a lead conversion rate standpoint to a point where you know that the value of the traffic that's coming across, if you were to pay for that traffic, for instance, is a certain amount. By understanding and comparing what the value of the traffic is or the value of the leads are that are coming from it, then you can compare it to other tools and you can figure out where best to invest your money. When you're looking at the cost of each of those, you're going to be looking at the amount of payroll connected to your individual areas because those are going to be connected to the amount of time. If you need to generate 15 blog articles in order to generate the organic traffic that you are looking for each month, then you would take how much it costs for you to do those things. You would divide it by the amount of traffic and the amount of leads that it generates per month. And in theory, you would have your cost of acquisition because you already know the downstream flow of those conversion rates. As you start to look at 2026, bring it back to first principles and understand how much your conversion rates will affect your overall funnel. While doing that, you'll find great ideas to improve those conversion rates. If you improve conversion rates across different stages of the funnel, you have a several X potential for increase in value or decrease in cost, depending on which way you want to go about it. And it can be great for your organization. If you need help with this, we would be happy to go through and do a initial conversion rate analysis for your company, as well as dig in and talk about how we can help you, whether it's a one-time project or ongoing services. Let us know. The folks at Impulse Creative are here to help you out.